Hello, fellow fish nerds and students, past, present, future, and ones I'll never teach, and welcome to my next video science lesson. This one is on the seasons of the Earth. The seasons of the Earth are made possible because the tilt of the Earth. But obviously, the warmer and cooler is because of the length of the day and how many hours of daylight and the angles of the sun's beams, or beam spreading. So let's first get started off with the most important part of it, which is the sun. Once again, I apologize for my handwriting. I know it's hard to believe that I'm a teacher and that students read my handwriting on the board, but they do, and they seem to do just fine. Though a lot of them like to rewrite what I put on the board to make it easier for them. So anyways, we'll throw on the right side over here because that's just, I like to start off with my favorite season from my perspective of being in the Northern Hemisphere. Sorry to all of you in Australia, New Zealand, South America, Africa, etc. But anyways, let's draw a Earth over here. Obviously, this is not drawn to scale, I know, but we'll draw the tilt of the Earth represented by the equator. It's a little bit more severe than what it actually is, obviously, but just know that that is the equator and the Earth is tilted. So during this time of year is when the Northern Hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, so we're getting longer daylight hours. So this, for us in the Northern Hemisphere, is the summer. Now, like I said, this is my favorite season because I'm a teacher and I am off in the summertime. The Southern Hemisphere, or south of the equator, they are tilted away from the sun, so therefore this is their winter. Now, on this day, which is June 21st, for us in the Northern Hemisphere, it is the first day of summer, and in the Southern Hemisphere, it is the first day of winter. For us in the Northern Hemisphere, it is our summer solstice, S-O-L-S-T-I. Let me double check this. I always mess this up. I think it's C-E-S-O-L-S-T-I-C-E. Yes, it is. I-C-E. This is the summer solstice on June 21st. This is our longest day of the year and the first day of summer. In the Southern Hemisphere, it is still June 21st, but it is their first day of winter. It is the shortest day of the year, the least amount of daylight. Whereas the equator, for the most part, gets a pretty evenly balanced hours of daylight throughout the year. It is the beginning of summer for us, the beginning of winter for the Southern Hemisphere. In places like Alaska and farther north of the Arctic Circle, they have close to 24-hour days, if not fully on 24-hour days, if you're really extreme far north. So people like Nisi that are watching this, she actually has a lot of pictures on her Instagram showing Alaskan sunsets all throughout the year, so you can see how late or early it is. In the winter, the shortest day of the year for the Southern Hemisphere, on their winter solstice, they are having their shortest day of the year. The further south you go, the shorter the day is, all the way down to the South Pole, where it is basically complete darkness all day long, and the outer parts of Antarctica might have, a few hours of daylight, but they're very, very short. It's very dim. It's almost like sunset. All right, so fast forwarding on to the next season, which we'll put up right here, and we'll still have the tilt of the Earth shown by the equator. The after summer for the northern, just at this point, you just go in order. After summer for us in the Northern Hemisphere is, we call it in America, we call it fall because we're Americans and we're lazy and we think, oh, the leaves fall, so let's just call it fall. Well, the rest of the world calls it autumn. A-U-T. This is all messed up. Let's try this again. A-U-T-U-M-N, right? Double check. Yeah, I'm American. I don't spell this very often. It's actually because I second guess myself on spelling all the time, and that is spelled correct with an N at the end. I usually get it correct, but I second guess myself all the time. So there's autumn. Let me pull it down just a little bit to make it more on screen. There we go. Autumn, and then in the Southern Hemisphere, after winter for them, comes spring. Now, the first day of autumn for us in the northern hemisphere and the first day of spring for the southern hemisphere is March 22nd. March 22nd. And this is the equinox, Equinox, which translated from Latin means equal night. On this day, especially close to the equator, the hours of daylight and hours of nighttime are equal at about 12 hours each. For us in the northern hemisphere, it is the first day of autumn. And for those in the southern hemisphere, it is the first day of spring on March 22nd once again. Okay, now fast forwarding once again, we come over here to the next position of the Earth. Once again, draw the tilt of the equator. I know I'm not staying consistent with a perfect angle of the equator, but whatever, you get what I'm saying here. The northern hemisphere is pointed away from the sun. It's not getting as much direct sunlight or focused beam spreading. The beams are more spread rather than focused. So we're getting less daylight hours and less strong, less severe, less direct sunbeams. So for us, this is winter. First day of winter over here. And for the southern hemisphere, you guessed it, it is the first day of summer. Now this day is December 21st. Which for us in the northern hemisphere is the first day of winter, and the southern hemisphere is the first day of summer. In parts of the northern hemisphere, like Alaska and farther north in the Arctic Circle, it's the shortest day of the year for everybody in the northern hemisphere. But the hours of daylight are extremely low, to the point of, like, at the North Pole, it's complete darkness basically all day long. Further south you go, you do get more hours of daylight until you get down to the equator, where it's basically 12 hours of daylight year-round because it stays more consistent. And the opposite is true in the southern hemisphere. The closer you get to the South Pole and Antarctica, it is basically daylight year-round, but it's still cold down there. You're not going to be wearing shorts in Antarctica. Anyway, so that's it. December 21st, first day of winter for us, first day of summer for the southern hemisphere. My students have a hard time understanding that in the southern hemisphere, in like Australia, South Africa, Brazil, those countries in the southern hemisphere, that on Christmas, on December 25th, that people down there are wearing shorts. My students have a hard time grasping that in our winter, in December, students in the southern hemisphere are on their summer break. And I know that thanks to the Simple Joys, a YouTube channel, friend of mine, who has talked about his students being, or his kids being on summer break at this time. So kind of interesting to kind of change our whole perspective on things. Now, last and final one, we'll put the bottom down here, is once again the same angle, not same angle, but same direction of the equator. For the northern hemisphere, this is the first day of spring, and for the southern hemisphere, this is the first day of autumn. Now this is September 22nd, S-E-P. For the most part, this day is equal parts day and equal parts night. Oh, I forgot to say this, obviously. This is the winter solstice for us and summer solstice for them, but this is a solstice once again. S-O-L-S-T-I-C-E, and this is a equinox, E-Q-U-I-N-O-X, equinox. Spring, it's called the spring equinox. Let me slide up so you can see it here. The spring equinox and the autumnal equinox. September 22nd, first day of spring for us, first day of autumn for the southern hemisphere. So anyways, basic, most important part that you need to know about the seasons is what causes the seasons: the tilt of the earth. The days get longer as the hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, days get shorter as the hemisphere is facing away from the sun. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions or requests for future video science lessons, please leave them in the comments below. If I got any of these facts wrong, or you just want to make fun of the way that I say autumnal, please comment below. Fact checkers, please go for it, but just make sure your facts are straight if you do comment below. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found it helpful, educational. Stay tuned and stay busy, people.